The ship's table was set for a meal no one ate, the cargo worth a fortune sat untouched, and every decision the captain made that morning led to a choice that erased 10 people from history. On December 4, 1872, a merchant brigantine named the Mary Celeste was spotted drifting off the coast of Portugal. The salvage crew that boarded her found something that shouldn't exist, a ship in perfect sailing condition with no crew aboard, not wrecked, not burned, not ransacked. The sails were set, the stores were full, and in the captain's cabin a meal sat partially consumed, cold now but recently abandoned. The accepted story is simple: mutiny or madness. The crew revolted against Captain Benjamin Briggs, or pirates attacked, or a gas explosion forced an evacuation. These explanations have held for 150 years because they are intuitive. Crews don't vanish from locked ships. Captains don't leave their vessels unless something catastrophic forces the decision. But let's count the evidence as a strategist would. What did Captain Briggs actually know on the morning of November 24, 1872, when he made the call to abandon ship? He commanded a vessel carrying 701 barrels of industrial alcohol. He had a wife and a 2-year-old daughter aboard. He'd been at sea for 11 days, and he'd discovered something wrong with his ship. The Mary Celeste had begun leaking. Not catastrophically, the pumps were handling it. But on a ship carrying barrels of volatile cargo in a wooden hull, water intrusion isn't just an inconvenience, it's a calculation. Alcohol vapor is heavier than air, it pools in the hold, and a single spark from friction from a nail strike from the heat of the sun on metal becomes a choice between fire and evacuation. Briggs made a decision under pressure with incomplete information. He ordered the crew to lower the boats. He tethered the Mary Celeste to them with a rope, a line meant to keep the ship close, to allow the crew to reboard once they assessed the danger from a safe distance. This wasn't abandonment, it was a calculated retreat. Then something happened that changed everything. The rope broke, or it slipped. And this is what the evidence suggests: the Mary Celeste, riding higher in the water without the crew's weight, simply drifted faster than the boats could follow. Within hours, the ship and the boats were separated by miles of open ocean. The crew was lost not to mutiny or violence, but to a tether that failed. The salvage crew that found the Mary Celeste didn't know this history. They saw a ghost ship, and they invented a ghost story. The meal on the table became evidence of panic. The untouched cargo became proof of hasty flight. Every detail was reframed to fit the narrative of sudden terror, because that narrative was easier to understand than a captain's fatal miscalculation. What happened to the 10 people in those boats? The historical record offers no answer. They were never found. No wreckage, no bodies, no distress signals. They likely drifted until fresh water ran out, or a storm capsized them, or they were picked up by a passing ship that never reported it. The ocean kept them. The real cost of the Mary Celeste mystery isn't unsolved. It's misunderstood. For 150 years, we told a story about a captain who abandoned his ship in madness or mutiny. The truth is simpler and sadder. A captain who made the only decision that made sense with what he knew, and then watched circumstances erase that decision from the record entirely. The Mary Celeste teaches us something about how history works. We don't solve mysteries, we inherit the versions that survived long enough to be written down. And the versions that survive are rarely the ones that make us uncomfortable with our own judgment. We prefer stories where someone failed catastrophically to stories where someone did everything right and lost anyway. Subscribe for more cases where the accepted story crumbles under scrutiny, because the real history is almost always more complicated and more human than the legend we inherited. Subscribe for more cases where the accepted story crumbles under scrutiny, because the real history is almost always more complicated and more human than the legend we inherited.